Hey, MBA fans and friends. Nicole Wilson, Vice President of Economic Development, coming to you with another edition of our Investor Spotlight. I am joined today by my good friend Sharon Miller with ITH Staffing. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I really appreciate you making the time. And as the newest Athena Award winner, I have to say congratulations and absolutely well-earned and an incredible legacy that you've left, in our community.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. So I always like to start with what's your why? So you're here in Midland. You've been here in Midland for quite some time. Why Midland?
Why Midland? Well, because I grew up in a Hemlock, which is about 20 miles from here, and I had 2 children, and I wanted to be able to be someplace where I could go to school, and if there was something going on. And I came to Midland, and I applied for a position at the Dow Chemical Company. I think you've probably heard of that company.
Yeah.
And it was it definitely was a strong presence in the community 53 years ago. And I applied for work, and they sent me a nice letter back that said when the strike ceased, they would consider me. Well, I'm not real patient, and so I ran into someone who did in-shop CAD drawings in their shop, and they hired me to do I'm going to call it back office work. And so then I said, if I can use your office and work half a day from your office, I'll work the other half a day and represent you, and so it won't cost you anything for my help, and I won't cost any money for my office. So that's how we started, and then it just grew from there. And my first customer, I thought, okay, what do I need in town? And it was like, okay, where do they pick up extra people if they want them, and go through all that work. So I went to Dow Corning at the time, and I said, this is what I would like to do. And there were no other agencies in town. There was one in Saginaw, and that's how I started. I started with Dow Corning and provided help for them. And when you're in a staffing company, we call what we have a general staffing company. And so I learned a lot about a lot of different fields, because it might be someone in the science area, it might be someone in accounting, it might be someone in HR, it might be someone in sales, and so as they said, we need somebody to do whatever. Then that just broadened my knowledge, and so here we are, 53 years later.
It's an incredible story.
Yeah,
you've enjoyed your time here, obviously.
I have, and I haven't had during that time. I've expanded. I took my talent, and I've had offices in the state of New York, throughout many of the cities, one in Chicago for about 3 years. I owned 2 restaurants for a while, as well as what I'm doing. I had a nursing, home nursing service for 20 years in there. So I just kept kind of weaving things in and out as they met my needs, or as the needs were there. And every time you open a door and you walk in, you gain more knowledge that you can use, whatever that knowledge is, wherever you go. I mean, it's just amazing what you pick up, because you deal with people, and you deal with a position, you deal with work that needs to be done. And so we try to find staff to do that. But you learn from the people who make the request to send somebody in. If you said to me, I need someone, I would have to figure out, no, let's see, I think I heard that she just went on a trip. Now, was that a social trip, or was that a business trip? And if she got there on business, did she talk in their native language or in our native language? And there's just so many things that you put into making a business go and being a benefit to the community that you're in. And so that's how I've functioned. Every time I would see something I didn't know about, I would go out and find somebody that did know about it and say, help me, tell me what that means. And it's just been wonderful, because you're on a constant learning curve.
Yes, absolutely. So I like to say, at least in my own work, a sense of curiosity and always being interested in the next thing has helped me to kind of navigate some challenges and to broaden my knowledge. So I appreciate that. So as you're working with different people to place them in the right spots or to meet that business need, is there one trait or one quality that you would say is most important?
Well, I think integrity and honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if someone calls and says, I need someone to do something, maybe they need someone to go out and call on their customers. Well, then I need to find someone that has that kind of a skills pattern, because otherwise I'm not doing anyone the benefit of my time or their time, and it's a negative thing. And I just listen carefully and try to fulfill. And it's okay to say I can't or I don't know what you're really looking for, and go back and we'll try again, because it doesn't help the community. It doesn't help the businesses you're working with. It doesn't help yourself or the people that work for you if you don't do what is right.
Sure. Absolutely. I agree with that. So we talk in Midland a lot about the accessibility of leadership. And obviously in our talent work, that's such a big asset for our community, is being able to see and interact with leaders at various levels throughout your career. Obviously, you've had the opportunity to work with an incredible group of leaders and throughout our community. Is there one experience or a mentorship situation, either on the receiving end or on the giving end of mentorship, that stands out to you as most important?
Well, I've done a lot of mentoring and a lot of coaching during the years, but I also have encouraged people who do not look at themselves as leaders, and said, you can be a leader. Leaders come in all sizes, all ages, all skill levels, and you don't have to be a retiree with a certain retirement fund that you can, because many people think they can't afford to be a leader. They can't afford to help others. They also don't have a lot of people feel that unless they've worked at a large company and moved to several different areas within that company, that their value isn't as great as someone who has worked for a chemist who has worked as a chemist for many years. They say, well, she's a chemist or he's a chemist. I can't compete with that. How would I go and take on a new job being a CEO of a nonprofit or a CEO of something else, or there's a new business coming to town and we need good people, and I don't have that kind of experience. So what am I going to do? And people have to forget that, because you can be 35 and be a leader, or you can be 75 and be a leader. And it depends on what your talents are and who you're leading, how that comes out. If you're strong and you're not afraid to go and lead and share your thoughts, it works.
Absolutely. And really looking at kind of building on that, the ways that our talents or unique qualities or willingness to step forward takes you into different places is really fascinating to see how that journey evolves.
Well, it is, as I said, because as in our business, it's a small business, and we work in the schools, we work in manufacturing, we work in accounting, we work in many different areas, and it's just exciting, because every day we gain new knowledge of something that's going on. And we also hear stories about this group is doing that, or did you know somebody bought that piece of property out on such and such a road, and on that they're going to be a spa. Well, maybe not a spa, but something wonderful. Sure. And great, or somebody's doing something, or we're going to have another business that's coming in from Europe, or so every day you learn something. Now, many times you have to flush through that and make sure that what you heard or what had been told isn't exactly the way it's planned. But that's part of the charm too, is because you learn to listen. And I think if you follow the newspaper, one day you hear about something can't be done, and the next day someone's can be done. I mean, letters to the editor is like a college degree, and it's just a great place to get some information and then use that information and go forward. It's also good to put yourself in the company of people who you respect and that want to make this community and this area better too. So you find some people that are making things happen, and you go there. You say, "Do you have room at the table for one more, or is there anything you'd like me to do?" Or I think Midland is a wonderful example of all the things that have been completed from community involvement and leadership. Yeah, it's not all a new company. It is groups. It's we just look around. I mean, you look at a Tridge, you look at the new. I call the new one the Green Bridge, but I know that's not what it's called. But that didn't just, that was a community input as well as, yeah. So those are the kinds of things that this community can do, and they share their talent. If you ask me if I knew anybody that did fill in the blank, I probably do know someone that I could go to and say, "Can you help me? What we want to create," and leave that blank. But all you have to do is work together, and that's really a key too, is working together with other people.
Absolutely. So in my role at the MBA, we have the opportunity to interface, obviously, with many, many other organizations that work in economic development and some of the chamber functions as well. And, I've shared stories over the years of one thing or another, a project, and folks who are very familiar with our community would say, "Oh, that's so Midland that you were able to get that done." And so I certainly don't take that for granted. And I know that's a really unique thing, and our community is very special for that reason. When there's a good idea or a good opportunity, our community will rally around it.
Well, they used to call Midland, they being outsiders, Crystal City. Well, things are not as easy as they once were. You have to work for your positions more than you used to. And it's certainly a city with crystal, but it's not Crystal City. And so we have lots of people who have had careers in Midland. They like Midland. They see the benefits of living in Midland. And so that's when they find something to contribute to, and they use their knowledge. And the people, a lot of it is networking too. And so they find those people that they worked with at some time in their career, and they network and get information, and it's just a great way that things happen. And if you look around at other communities in Michigan, let's say, we're way ahead in so many in so many ways. We're ahead, and it's just a great place to be, and it's a great place to work. And the doors don't shut. If you want, that's really important. If you want to be involved and help, then you find out who's running that particular project, and you go talk to them and you say, "What can I do to help you? And can I sit in so that I can learn what I could do?" And it's my findings that people are very welcoming. So.
Absolutely. And whenever our community is faced with a challenge, seeing everyone rally around whatever that challenge might be and work together to solve it is such a blessing. So shifting a little bit there, I'd love to hear about a time that you maybe had an unanticipated challenge in a project or maybe someone you were working with that you really had to shift or level up, as they say. So you had to learn something that maybe you weren't comfortable with, and how that challenged you.
Oh, there's always things that are not comfortable, okay? And indeed, you do have to look at what you're doing. When I owned my healthcare business, it was just more than I could handle, and I was going through a divorce at the time, and I had restaurants, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I went to my children. I had 2 daughters, and I said, "What businesses that I'm running and owning are you maybe interested in?" And they said none. They would do their own selection process. They didn't need mom to do it, and that was fine with me. But I had to figure out what to do, and so I like my home health care business, but it was changing. There was a time when you went in and you helped give baths and you helped feed the people, but now it's more sophisticated. And I didn't have the time to do that and everything else, and so I put that up for sale. And that was hard. It was very hard because I had it for 20 years, and I created a lot of acquaintances and friendships, and so it was really difficult. But it worked out, and and I sold it to another company, and they did. I mean, they probably did better than I did, so it was okay. And there's always somebody else waiting on the other side of the door, that is ready to do something, and they and you just have to be comfortable with it. So that was a challenge. Yeah, it changes your personality is what it does.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Sometimes when we do talk about kind of the next step for a business, if an owner is interested in selling, making sure that things are kind of tightened up in terms of operations and ready to sell. So I'm sure, knowing you, I'm sure that was the case, and that sale probably went quite smoothly for you.
Well, and I when I was ready to sell it, I didn't know if emotionally how I would carry through, because they're your babies. When you create them, they're your babies. So I went to someone else who owned a business in town, and he was not a realtor, but he was a good business person. And I said, "Could I hire you to be my go-to person?" And so we worked together, and he actually did all the behind-the-scenes work for me. I mean, I gave him the information, and obviously we negotiated together. But I knew that it's okay to ask for help or give the help to somebody else, and so that I would say that was probably one time that was a learning experience and something that you just had to go ahead and go through. And in business, you always have problems, and you always have good days. Mm-hmm. But when you think you're almost there, it's like, oh my gosh, somebody quits, or the rates of something go up, and now you have to replan your profit and loss, and or you lose a customer, and how are we going to stay in business if we've lost this customer? So there's always some challenge. And you have to be a person that's willing to take those challenges, or you should, if that's not the case, then you better figure out something else to do, because it's not worth the stress that you would have to every day get up and worry.
Sure. Well, let's shift maybe to a quick softball. So what is your favorite hidden gem in Midland? What's your favorite place?
Okay. My favorite hidden gem in Midland, probably the Center for the Arts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dow Gardens, the Tridge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, our beautiful community assets, really, and hoping that we get to spring pretty soon here and see all those things back in bloom.
That's right, and I go beyond, because I think there's good things in the region, like Children's Museum in Saginaw.
Absolutely. We spent plenty of time there with my kids when they were little, so I appreciate the regional shout out. So yeah. I want to give you an opportunity if there's anything else you would like to share with our audience before we end our time together.
Well, I just want you and your staff to do as much as they can do to make Midland a growing community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, and of course for your support in economic development and your support of me personally. And so thank you very much.
Well, it's fun, and I'm not afraid to step into the water, and I'm not afraid to ask questions or tell you it's great or it's not so great. But I also don't hold grudges. I'm not out. I don't, in my knowledge, I've never been out to get somebody. That's just not how I operate. And so, if I can find people. They're usually very cooperative.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.